Welcome back to Insights at DDLynn Designs, a unique twist in the ancient art of wire. So I posted just a short a couple days ago, and I'm really excited about launching my new beginner series over the next 2 weeks. I would have released some yesterday, but I've been having a lot of problems with my phone. So, anyways, I'm going to go step by step. I definitely remember when I first started, my brain and my hands were in two different places. And I was so wanting to know how something was done, meaning not just making it, but how do you get the wire to do what you want it to do, right? So before we get started, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And it takes 1 second to give me a thumbs up, y'all. So your comments and feedback are really appreciated. So let's get started. So for the materials, and I'm going to change up on this a little bit to make it more user-friendly because crystals aren't very easy to wrap. And just to give you a little clue, these are rough crystal points. They're all chipped and broken up. Doesn't mean you can't use them. People love them. But the hole, so it has a drilled through hole in it, is over halfway down the crystal. So the crystal is naturally going to want to spin or flip. But I promise you, if you have a crystal like that, when it's against your chest, it's not going to spin. Okay, there are many different ways to wrap them. I'm trying to think of the way that's most user-friendly. Now, if you do not have a crystal, you can simply just wrap a bead and do the same technique with hanging that bead in the middle where we hung the crystal. Okay, so you have many options. So for your materials, I cut 6 inches of 22 gauge wire. I would normally like to use 20. So here's a very important tip. You always want to make sure that your wire will fit through the drilled through hole, because often they're not even in the center. One side will be tighter than the other. So I couldn't get a 20 gauge through there. So because this is a smaller crystal and the drill through hole is higher on top, I'm going to change it up a little bit, and hopefully that will be more user-friendly. I also centered my wire, and then I drew the line from the middle to right inside the 1/4 inch mark. And there's a reason why I did that, because as beginners, it's hard to find center sometimes. So this way, when you're putting your wire in, you can line up so that your wire is center and see your marks on each side. So isn't that cool? So that helps you stay centered than having just one little dot here and not being able to see through your bead or stone and not knowing exactly where center is. But here's another tip. Always cut yourself excess wire if you need it, especially when starting out, because it's hard for the brain to compute all of these new ideas. The second piece of wire is 18 gauge. You can absolutely use 20. It is 8 inches long. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a hoop. And because of the size of this crystal taking up so much length, I had to make my hoop very big. So I actually used 9 inches and had excess left over. And then you're going to have 3 jump rings, which I already cut. Okay, and I used the number 3 on my 6-step bail making pliers. And then I just have a piece of scrap wire here. And it's about 1.25 to 1.5 inches long. And that's to make our S hook. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we want to focus on and get out of the way, because it's going to be most tedious, is the crystal. So I am going to run my wire through here. And because I've got such short space on top, I'm going to have a lot of excess, but you may not, which is why I wanted to cut 6 inches. So I'm going to get my needle nose, and I'm just going to bend this sharply, and you can pull it out if you want, meaning you don't have to have it in the stone. And I'm just going to bend it up just like that, and you should have an L shape like that, because this is the bottom of our wire. And then I'm going to put it back through my beaded crystal here. And I want to make sure that I have just a little bit of gap space, like a millimeter, okay? And then I'm just going to bend this up. Once I get the first bend in there, I'm going to come in with my plier and I'm going to really sharpen it up. So here's what you should have. And we just got a little bit of wiggle room. Now I'm just going to bring them together on top. So we're going to twist the wire, right? And we're going to twist it. I don't even know if I can show you here. We're going to make a little twisted bail. And the reason why I did that is it's 22 gauge. So it's very soft and I want it to hold up. Now here's a very important point or tip. I'm right dominant. So I want to twist my wire to the right, which means when I'm crossing my wires over, I want the right wire to stay on top of my left wire. And then I'm just going to simply hold the sides and I'm going to push this down. And we have that. Now, if you find one side is got more crystal on it than the other, you can compensate for that. So you would just come in here. You're going to straighten that out a little bit. I'm going to open that up a little bit more. And I'm going to bend the corner up a little higher than the other side. And if that doesn't work for you, do not worry. This is very organic looking. It's not to be perfect. It's just an easy way to wrap a drilled through crystal. So now that I have my cross, meaning I've got a V here, my right wire is going over my left. If you're left-handed, you would do the opposite. Your left wire is going to go over the top and your right wire would stay underneath. So now I'm just going to hold right here, checking out how my crystal is laying in there. I just saw my wire bend a little bit. And I'm going to do 5 twists. So there's 1. You always want to keep a good gap space in between. I'm going to move my pliers up. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm looking at that and I think I did 6. So I'm going to do 6. So here's what we have. And I'm just going to push my little crystal back down in there, and I'm going to make some adjustments because I squeezed my wire together up here. So all I'm going to do is just kind of stretch that out a little bit on each side. So I'm just pulling the wire away from the crystal. So if you find when you're first twisting, I didn't find it easy, okay, because we just want a little tiny bail that one wire is higher than the other, one is bowing up, one is bubbling, one's laying over the side a little bit. Just come in with your flat nose pliers. This is, again, beginner only, so I'm going to be extremely detail oriented. So you go up and down the sides, and then you want to put equal pressure and press down on those twists, and it will really clean them up and straighten them out. So now I want my loop to come forward. So I'm going to bend this away from me, right where the V is here and where the twisted wire starts. And I'm just going to make a subtle little bend like that. This is why we needed that little gap space in there. And then I'm going to get my 6-step bell making pliers, and I'm going to use the number 2. So if you've never used 6-step bell making pliers, they're 6-step and each size is smaller, from 3 to 5 to 8 to 10, etc. You'd have to measure it with a caliper. This is a caliper that measures down to the millimeter. So that is 3 millimeters. That is 2 millimeters. See what I mean? That is 4 millimeters, etc. So I'm going to get the number 2, and I'm going to roll this forward. I'm going to take my pliers out. I need to adjust my wrist. Ergonomically, it will only go forward so much. And then I'm going to roll it over. Don't worry about your crystal moving. It's going to. We just want a little bail. Then I'm going to keep my plier in there and I'm going to swing these wires to the back. So let me just pull this out so you can see. So we've made ourselves a little bitty bail. I'm just going to come a little bit more and really push it in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take the wire here. We're going to call this our top wire, and we're just going to swing it around the back. Then I'm going to straighten up this neck. So what I mean by that is this loop is rolling forward too much. So I'm just going to get my plier in here and I'm just going to arc it back. So it's more on an even plane. See that? And either way can be your front or your back. So now I'm going to take my plier, this wire we're just leaving up for a minute, and I'm going to swing it around. I'm not left dominant, but this is a very soft wire, so it's really easy to do with your hand. If you're having difficulty, straighten that wire up before you come around to your next bend. And then I'm going to come around 3 times, and I'm going to let the wire hang out there. So we have this. And we're going to straighten this up over here. I'm just going to pull this wire out a little bit. Let me get out from underneath this. I was making it difficult for myself. So just let the crystal slide forward. And I'm just going to come in and straighten that up a little bit. It's okay if it's wonky. So just cleaning it up a little. All right, so I'm debating on where I want my front now. Thinking I might want that as my front. I like the higher point of the crystal setting in the back. So I'm going to come around one more time. So it's just personal preference at this point. If you're doing a bead, no problem. So now this wire on the back, I'm just going to bring it around. Bring it around. If you notice, I'm using my fingers a lot. And I'm going to cinch it up. And then I'm just going to cut it off and tuck it inside the bail. So notice how I'm swinging that wire up. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm always trying to find my best working position and how I can manipulate that wire. If I have it down here, it's going to be harder to swing it up. If I know I want the wire to be tucked inside the bail, then I'm presetting the wire. And I'm just going to take off a little bit to where you just have a little nib right there. Then I'm going to get my tweezer nose and I'm going to roll it forward. So I twisted it and rounded it out. And then I'm just going to find my best working position. So you see how the wire is coming through the other side. I'm going to anchor off that wire itself. And I'm going to push it down in the middle of the bail and tuck it in. So we're just hiding it away. So now we have this. So now we're going to make a spiral. You need a good inch. I can see that I was short on my wire. And so I've got just under 1.25 inches. And I'll compensate for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spiral this wire. So I'm going to get my very petite nose or also needle nose plier, and I'm just going to make a little hook. So here's our little beginning loop. Then I'm going to get my flat nose, and I'm going to squeeze that in on itself. If it does that, if the wire jackknifes, no big deal. We're just going to grab it with the flat nose and turn it around. So it's on the same plane as the wire itself. So there's what we have. Then I'm going to grab my flat nose again, and I'm going to roll this wire in, and I'm really pressing down on it. And by doing that, it's going to flatten it out, and it's all good. And I'm just going to keep rolling. So I'm holding here, supporting the wire. And if you notice, I'm turning my wrist into each other. I won't be able to do that all the way through because I'm going to start hitting the middle of the stone. But I'm just going to keep turning it in and trying to roll my wrist. I'm going to come back on the neck of that so I have some room. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to swing this wire back. That's creating more working room for me. And then I'm just looking at where this is going to line up. And I'm holding firmly on the crystal. And I'm just going to keep rolling it in until I am satisfied with what I'm looking at and I find center. So let's turn it around. And now we have this darling little crystal pendant. So there you go, everybody. And you can make adjustments. It's just going to hang. Even though it's still going to spin to the back, it's no big deal. Because when it's hanging, it's gravity that's holding it down. So you got that gravity holding it down, so you're all good. So I'm just going to pull this in just a smidge. Very, very subtle. So we have this perfect little spiral. So now let's get started on our hoop. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to lay our crystal down on our board, and this measures from the bottom of the crystal to the top of the board, a little under 1¼ inches in height, okay? So I know that I'm going to need that in length, right? And width-wise, it depends on how much width you want in between your hoop here. That's up to you. This one, because of the length of the crystal, I made it really big. So this one, I'm just looking at that, and I'm thinking that's too wide. I like that right there. So it's very personal preference, okay? So the easiest way to figure out, I've got 12 millimeters in length on my caliper, okay? That's the 12 millimeter line, okay? So I'm going to mark the center of my 8 inches of wire. And that's always just a guide. And you can use anything. You can use a medicine bottle, you can use a piece of wood dowel, any round shape, a pen, because you can open it up if you want a pretty thick felt pen if you need width. You can also use a ring mandrel. Okay, this is really heavy. Let me shrink my screen down. So I'm going to use my wooden ring mandrel because that is a stainless steel and it's really heavy and it's going to make it awkward for me. So that's about a number 3 ring size. I can always open it up or close it down. So I'm going to start off with that. I'm just putting the mark in the middle, and all I'm going to do is swing the sides over. And then I'm just going to let them cross over a little bit so that I can see how much length I'm going to need, because we're going to be hanging the crystal from here. So my crystal, what you want to do is set your loop down on the board or your hoop. Something like that. And I'm going to come up here. So you want to line it up on your board so that you know your distance and measurements. And then I'm going to come up right here. So this is 1. Remember I said the length of the crystal is right under 1¼ inches. So I'm just going to come up right above 1¼ Give myself a little gap there. Then I'm going to hold firmly here because I need that gap space, and I'm just going to push my wires down. Then I'm going to look at how my crystal's going to hang in there. That's really good room. And we're going to be changing this. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to where my marks are and I'm going to use something round. You can also use your finger. So I'll do one side with the plier. I'm going to get my 6-step bell making plier, and I want a soft bend, so I'm going to use the number 3. And don't worry about these kinks here that I made. I'm going to show you how to get those out. I'm just going to bend it away. So we have a little bend like that. And then if you do it with your finger, you would just put your nail in there and bend it away. But I think that for the purpose of just learning, you want to take your marker and run it, follow the line here so you can see it. You always want to turn your work around so you can see what you're doing. Don't fight the wire. And then I'm just going to take the number 3 again, right at the mark, and I'm going to bend that away. And that's going to clean up these sides a little bit. Now I'm going to bring the legs together because I need to have that length to hang my crystal in there, and that is going to work out perfect. And it's going to go pretty quick from here, y'all. Now, you could bring in more wire, but we're not going to go through that because I want to keep this really beginner friendly. I don't want to complicate it, and I tend to always want to bring other things in. So I'm going to move everything out of the way, and I'm going to bring in my chasing hammer. You don't have to hammer. If you're using 20 gauge, I would probably recommend you really need to harden your wire. You can also use a rubber mallet. So let me show you what that is. So if you don't have one of these, but you happen to have a little rubber mallet or a leather rawhide mallet, you can just harden your wire by constantly going up and down it without changing the shape. But I want to harden mine. So I'm going to bring my legs together right here, and I'm going to texture this wire. So I'm simply going to be using the ball peen. Now you could flare it out, but I'm just going to texture it. And so this is the ball peen. This is the chasing part of the hammer because it has a very subtle dome on it. Okay. And I'm just going to start tapping on the outside edge, and it's going to flip my wire up, and that's okay because it's going to flatten out when we're done. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a hammered look. Now, if you notice, I'm sliding my finger down because I want to control my wire more. And I'm really trying to stay on the lip of the wire on the inside and the outside. So here's what we have. Now I'm going to go up this leg. I'm going to hold firmly down here, and I'm just going to tap the edge. Then I'm going to do the same thing here. Tap the edge. Then I'm going to get my rubber mallet just to flatten everything out. And I'm on the back now. And I don't know if you noticed, it had a little height here on the wire. And that's just flattening it all out. But it's not taking away the texture that we created. Okay. So now comes the decorative part. This is obviously too much wire for what we're going to make, but you could actually utilize this wire, right? So I am going to bring in wire to wrap this crystal right where the neck is. So I'm going to bring in 26 gauge. You can use 28. And I'm going to cut myself right now a foot of wire. Probably may not need that much. If I need more, I can always bring it in. I'm going to get rid of all this paraphernalia so we don't screw up my camera wanting to stay in focus. I'm not a videographer, you guys. There are girls out there that make these really pretty professional videos. I'm all about teaching. So if we can't get it from that, then, and I don't know, I mean, it's very nice to look at, but it doesn't work for me. I just can't figure it all out. And I don't want to spend the time doing it, to be honest. Okay, so I just fed this through. I folded my wire in half. And I just want to see how it's going to set up before I create my decorative shape up here. I'm not going to set it in yet. Just want to see how that's going to hang, okay? And it's going to hang beautifully. So I'm just going to take that out. I'm going to leave my wire in the crystal itself. And now we're going to decorate. So depending on how big you want your loop, so let's reference the piece I did yesterday that I had to delete the video because my camera wouldn't change it. So anyways, I'm going to make some loops and I'm going to offset them. I like them offset. So if you notice, if I move the jump rings out of the way, this side is higher and the loop is bigger and it's coming down longer. And you can literally bring your loop down and wrap it in your wire. I'm always going to give you inspiration. So I'm going to come in with my number 2 on this one. And notice where I have my plier. So the number 2 is facing me, but that's not a really good working position for me, but I want to show you the easiest way that you can visualize this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this wire around with my thumb Oops, see what I mean? I'm going to adjust my wrist because it's harder for me to work in that direction. Okay, now I'm going to swing this wire all the way over. And I like that loop size. I like that, looks good. Over here, I'm just going to straighten this out with my flat nose. Got a little bit too much of a bend in that corner there, and I didn't like it. And it could be my eyes playing with me with the ink. So now what I'm going to do, it's easy with your hands, or you can do it with the plier. I find that sometimes our hands are our best tool depending on what we're going to do. And the reason why I swung this wire so far over is for two reasons. One, I wanted to make a nice, beautiful teardrop loop. Okay, and two, sometimes we need to go in the opposite direction of where we intend to really go. So I want to bring this wire back, okay, like I did here. So I had brought it over, all the way over, and then I held here and I swung it over. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to hold right here and I'm going to grab the tip of the wire. I'm holding at the X very firmly and I'm rounding it out and pushing it over. So now we have this beautiful teardrop loop there. And now on this one, I want to come higher. I want to offset it. You don't have to. So here's something that you need to be aware of. If you didn't want to offset your loops and you wanted them symmetrical, meaning even across the top, then before you bent them, you would take your marker, assuming I had two wires here in the same position, right? And I would mark them on my board of how big I wanted them, and then they would be equal. They would be symmetrical. So now I'm going to put this back on my board, and I can see that the tip, so I've got it at the bottom of the 1-inch block here, right? So this is a square. I can see that the tip is sitting dead center in the middle of the top of the 1/2-inch mark. And I want it a little higher than a 1/2 inch. So if this is the 1/2-inch mark right here, this is my 1/2-inch mark, the top of where this loop was curved in. I'm going to come above it just a little bit. So see how this mark is a little bit higher than that mark. And that's going to offset it for me. I like that organic look. So now I'm determining if I want a smaller loop or a bigger loop. So I'm going to get my marker because I want to get it in a good working position. And I'm just going to follow that mark around the wire so I can see it, because I'm going to turn my work over. Something like this would normally take me about 30 minutes, but teaching it and going step by step by step takes longer. And that's because I want you guys to know that I'm really taking into consideration. So this was the number 3, and I think I'm going to stay with that. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten out this bend a little bit. And there's a reason for that. I don't want that kink in it. So I'm just using, sorry you guys, I was out of frame. I'm just using my flat pliers because I don't want the kink in there, because I'm making my bend much higher than this mark where I initially bent on this side, if that makes any sense. So now I'm going to get my number 3 in here, and I'm just going to put the mark in between both pliers. The number 3 is facing me, and I'm going to push that wire around, and I'm going to swing it over. Then I'm going to pull them in. So we have this. See how it's offset? I think it creates a very unique design pattern. I just like it. So now I'm going to really swing this over. Then I'm just going to put my thumb here. Now, I'm going to show you another technique. If you don't want to put your thumb there, you can put your plier here. But you have to be careful not to put, you can put a sharp bend in it. So notice where I'm holding my plier right above the opening of that little X there. And my wire is coming around back, and same thing as before, I'm using the tip of the wire and I'm bending it towards me. But see how once the wire wants to move away from my plier, it's It's kind of hard to hold that shape. I want a softer bend in this, more elegant, so I'm just going to soften that up like that. So here's what we have. Now I can bend this out a little bit more. And now we're just going to decorate. And we're going to hammer the curves. So where's my little crystal? It's right here. My crystal is going to sit up here, in between these two. Let's see if I could hold it steady for you. So it's going to sit right up there. Now, before I wrap my crystal in, I'm just going to hammer the arc. Now, you might want to mark your wire where your front is if you textured it so that you don't forget where your front is, because I'm going to be hammering on the back. And again, if you don't have a chasing hammer, just use a rubber mallet. And I'm just going to hold firmly, and I'm just going to flare out 3/4 of this loop here. And then I'm going to round this out a little bit more. I'm looking at that there. Let me see. Just want to round that corner out a little bit more. And I'm just going to flare that out. Okay. Just giving more character and dimension to our wire. Isn't that pretty? Now, use your imagination at this point. I'm going to really encourage you, because you can't learn if you don't try. You wouldn't believe how many shoe boxes of scrap wire I had. And in the beginning, I didn't know I could reuse it, and I threw it all away. Because I didn't know. I'm self-taught. So nobody said, oh, save that. You can reuse it. You can take a little piece of wire like this and make a jump ring out of it, right? I was clueless. So save your wire and don't be afraid to practice. So now we're just deciding on how we want to decorate. Do we want to stay in this motif here? And I wish this was alive. You guys could all give me a thumbs up. So I think I'm going to kind of stay in that motif. I have a lot of wire here. I could literally loop this around and bring it back down and make it more decorative. So I'll show you what I mean by that. I'm going to do the side with the longest amount of wire. So I'm going to do this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently pull this away a little bit. And you see the curve in the wire here. I'm going to put my number 1 there, right on the curve. And just simply use your hand and pull that wire around and under. So adjust your wrist, pull it around. Adjust your wrist, pull it around. And then let that wire come all the way around. We're going to bring it up even more. It's almost like a double loop. And now you have this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten that loop. And then I think I'm just going to add one more decorative component to it. And I'm thinking about swinging this wire. Let's see, that's so pretty like that too, right? You know what, you guys, let's see what it looks like. We've got all this excess wire. If I don't like it, then I'm going to just cut it here and leave my loop. So I'm thinking of, so I'm going to lift up on this wire. I'm holding very firmly. I'm going to lift up on it, and I'm going to bring it back through. And I'm just thinking of another loop here. I'm going to try something. Then I'm going to swing it. I'm really going to curve it. I'm using my thumb, and I'm just pushing into that wire. Because I was thinking if I had the crystal in here, I'm not sure how that will look. We can always cut it out if we don't like it. So here's our crystal. If I brought this loop back in, how pretty that would be down on the bottom in front of the crystal. Now, if that's over your head right now, because this is all about beginner work, just make your loop. Just cut your little loop and roll it. I'm going to take a look at that idea really quick. If I don't like it, we'll cut it out. So I am going to literally smash the tip of this wire I'm making like a little diamond point. I'm going to turn my work over. And now I'm going to make a loop and a curve in the wire. Then I'm going to come back up underneath it because I need to get in my best working position. And I'm just going to start curving that in to see if this is going to be pretty based on what I was visualizing. And I'm just curving. I keep coming in right here, midway of the loop, because I want to maintain the openness of that. And then I'm just going to stop here, and I'm going to swing this wire in. I want to see what this would look like with the crystal, or if it's just too off kilter. So I'm going to hold right here. I'm going to lift up. So I'm lifting up on that wire, hold right here very firmly, and I'm going to loop it over. I would be pushing that back down, but I just want to get a visual. And I can tell already I'm not liking it. It changed the shape of the wire too much, but it was an idea, and this is what I mean by how we learn. It's just, it doesn't look right. So good. I want you guys to see the creative process that I go through. And I mean, you could make really one more loop right here. You could just make a little tiny loop right there, but I'm not going to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to keep this really simple. I'm coming around the back, and I'm going to cut my wire to where my plier is sitting right on top of this wire, because you're always going to spring back, okay? And then I'm going to shape this again because I kind of made it a little wonky doing all that bending on it. And I'm just going to roll it out a little bit. So that's what we have. So let's make life simple for ourselves over here. And we're just going to tie everything together. So to start, I'm just going to roll. So I'm rolling that wire with my hand. That just gives me a guide on how big I want my loop, right? So I'm thinking I'm going to leave this at the, if I line this up here where the curve is coming on my board, I'm going to cut right outside of the 1/4 inch mark. So I'm just going to get my marker. And if it's too big, you don't like how big your loop is, we can always cut it down. So I'm just going to go like that, snip it, because I wanted this down a little bit lower or maybe a little bit higher. I don't know. I'm looking at this, and that curve in the wire is bothering me. I'm going to walk you through everything I do when something bothers me, because these are all different ways to change something you don't like. And I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to roll this up even higher. I want more of a curve, much better. For me, I like that much better. And I may make that loop smaller. I just don't know. So yet, but I will here shortly. So over here, I'm just going to get, I'm going to use my number 2 because that's a bigger loop. Okay, so I'm starting my bend. Now I need to turn my work around in my best working position, and I'm going to bend. I'm doing these in baby steps for you guys. And then I'm going to come in. Why not? I got a nice curve on that now. I've got the number 1 facing towards me and the number 2 barrel inside, and I'm just going to start rolling it in. And then I'll take a look at that. So I don't like them so side by side. That's just me. It's personal preference. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to leave this side down. I'm trying to visualize if I want that loop up higher here, or I want this loop up higher. And I think I want this loop up higher. So all I'm going to do is cut that. I'm going to take about 2 millimeters off. And you can also leave it semi-open, but you want to make sure. And I think now I'm going to make that loop smaller. I'm always changing up based on what I'm seeing. And I think I still want it a little bit higher. So I'm going to push it in. I'm going to cut just a little bit more off. ow, I just pinched my finger with my plier. I'm going to have a, what do you call that? A blood blister? And I'm not going to like that blood blister. Okay. And I'm going to roll that in. Okay, for me, I like that better. Do whatever you like. Now here's another technique. When we're bending on our wire, sometimes we can cause it to raise higher or lower. It's not parallel with the wires. You can just simply rock that wire down or up and then flatten it. And I'm going to change the shape of this a little bit. I want to give it a little bit more of an egg shape. I like that. So that's it. I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but this is a beginner tutorial. So now I'm going to get my buffer. This is a 180 grit professional construction grade sanding block. I buy them by the case. And I'm just going to clean up any high sides, and I'm buffing down on a 45-degree angle. And it's just going to soften up that wire. Now, if you're concerned, let me give you another tip about your, and you're not going to oxidize your piece that you're making, and you're concerned about the Sharpie marks, the ink pen on your wire. Rubbing alcohol, if you don't have a buffer, does a beautiful job on taking everything else. Also cleans your metal beautifully. All right, let's get our crystal set. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to I'm going to line my wires up. I'm out of camera here for a minute. I need to line my wires up, and I want you to see the tail end. And I'm going to feed each wire through the loops. You can also do this instead of making it difficult for yourself. You can come up underneath. So just slide it. I was doing it the hard way. We always want to do things in our best working advantage. Now you want to slide this up, but don't worry. We can make adjustments to where you know your crystal needs to sit. And then I'm going to wrap. So I've got the right wire here. I'm holding firmly, and I'm going to wrap it around. And like I said, we can adjust it. So now I'm going to turn my work over, and I'm going to cinch up the other side. So all I'm doing is pushing my wire through the middle and bringing it out the front. Now I need to see how my crystal is sitting, and I need it to come down just a little bit. So I'm going to slide it down. That's what we have. Now, as I mentioned earlier, if you don't have a crystal, just use a bead, okay? So now I'm just going to take my wire, and then we're going to wrap these down here because I want it to be really secure for you. And I'm going to take this wire and just kind of come around the loop here. Now both my wires are coming out the back. Make sure this is slid down. I have a tendency to slide up on you because you're pulling on it. Okay, so now my wires are coming out the back, and I want to get them parallel because this is important the way I do this, okay? So you've got one on the left, one on the right. I'm going to cross them over. So I'm taking the one on the right all the way over to the left, and the one on the left all the way over to the right. And I'm going to feed it through the loop. So it's crossed over in the back. This is a very secure wrap. Then bring it through the middle and let it hang out on the back. I'm going to feed it through. And then bring it through the middle and let it hang out on the back. So both our wires are coming out on the back. Then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to cinch these up. Wrong pliers. And we'll be almost done. We're going to add our jump rings. Now you can wrap up as much as you want. See how pretty that is? And I promise you, when it's hanging against the chest, it will lay flush. It will lay flat against your chest. So let's do that a couple more times. I really want to wrap up. So we've got our wires, each one coming out from the right and the left. I'm going to cross the left over, and I'm going to cross the right over. Then I'm simply going to feed it through. Keep a healthy loop in your wires so that you don't kink it up. And I'm also using a 26 gauge, so it's going to kink up faster. Pushing with my thumb so I can drag it back through the middle. Then I'm going to feed it through. Okay, here's the front. The wire's coming out the front. So all I'm going to do is bring it through the middle. Then I'm just going to cinch my wires together. So it's kind of like 2 coils space, 2 coils space. And I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. See that? Because we're crossing over in the back, it makes a little natural separation, and it's really pretty. So 2 and 2. So let's do that one more time. Then I'm going to use this excess wire to connect our little loops here. So we're going to cross over. We're going to loop through, keep a healthy loop. We're going to bring this wire through the middle, and then we're going to wrap 3 coils. That's 2. That's 3. The wire's coming out the back. I'm going to turn my work over, and I'm going to loop it through. Now, here's another tip. If you're finding difficulty because you've got a lot of length of wire to keep your loop, keep your finger in here. And then just let that wire, as you're pulling it, loop around your finger. It will maintain the loop for you. And then when it starts getting tight around your finger, just bring it through. And then I'm going to do 3 wraps. Need to open that up a little bit. 2. These need to come up, and these need to go down. There we go. I'm really picky, so I'm just lining up my wraps. There's so many different techniques of how to accomplish what your intention is. So these are both coming out the back like that. So there we have our darling little pendant. So what I'm going to do on the back is I'm going to snap the wire, and I'm going to hold very firmly, and all it is a wiggle jiggle. So I'm wiggling it and I'm jiggling it, and I'm holding super firm, and I've got my nail right on my weave so that I don't pull it out of shape. And then the same thing here. If you notice, I'm turning my work around. See where my fingernail is? I'm holding that weaving down, holding the frame really firmly, wiggle, jiggle, and it snaps clean off. So we've got that. So now we could have wrapped these first, and let me tell you why I didn't. I wanted the working space to come in and out, and I didn't want to tie myself up. So if you want your loops down longer, then by all means, you could have brought that loop way down. So all I'm going to do is just a couple of quick wraps here. I'm going to get my crystal out of the way. And I'm going to wrap, so my wire is underneath. I'm going to do 3 wraps on the frame. So I'm wrapping around the frame of the loop. And I'm going to let my wire come back up through the middle. And then I'm just going to cinch them together. So now I'm debating on whether or not I want to come through the loop, or do I just want to wrap over those 2 legs? I've decided that I just want to wrap over those 2 legs. So I'm pushing my crystal out of the way. I'm going to hold this wire down here, and I am going to do 3 wraps. Every piece I do is different, even if I'm making the same thing twice. And I often don't like to make the same thing twice, but I really, really wanted to share with you guys my beginner stuff. And I save a lot of it just to remind myself where I've come, and it's still very pretty. And I love the way that I overthink things. I don't love that. I mean, the way people are about when we overthink. You know, they're not thinking what we're thinking because they don't do it. If everybody could do it, it'd be pennies on the dollar, and I don't work for pennies on the dollar. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my crystal back. I'm going to hold very firmly. You can cut or snap. I'm going to snap. Clean off. Then I'm just simply going to crimp that down. Then in the back, if I have room, and I do, I'm going to show you another technique. We are loaded with techniques. I don't need that much wire, so I'm just going to cut off. This leaves me about 1.25 inches. This is called hide your wire. And what you're going to do, let me blow this up. It might be easier. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to tuck my wire underneath these loops. And I have a tutorial on this. So see where my little pointed dental tool is? So what you want to do is you want to make like a question mark. Then you want to turn your question mark to where the wire is lining up with your wraps. Then you want to get your pliers and tweezer nose. And I'm going to push that wire up underneath. Got a lot of things in my way here. Should work, but if it doesn't, we'll tie off. There we go. Do you see the wire coming up underneath? I'm going to start pushing more. My coils are in the way. Let me adjust that. Okay, what I'm going to have to do is back out. So here's another technique, because I do this all the time. And I'm going to make a little bend on the tip. What that's going to allow it to do is hook through, hook up under that wire. So I'm just going to come back. See my little hook? And I'm going to hook under it, and it should come out this time, and it did. I'm going to get my nail right there and push that little tip of that wire up. Do you see that? See it sticking up? Now, over here, you want to keep a healthy loop, okay? I'm going to hold very firmly, and I'm just going to start pulling it through. See it going through? So you want to keep a loop up here. Don't let that kink. So now when my loop's about that small, I put my thumb over it, so it keeps it from kinking. I'm pressing very hard, and I pull until I can feel that wire literally lock in. Now, if it bows up front here, you're just going to come around, push on it, and then you're going to pull it through again. So I'm just going to hold and pull. And now we've hidden our wire. Isn't that pretty? So same as before, this wire is hidden inside. I'm going to snap it, and it comes off clean. Now on this side, I think that I'm just going to wrap where the loop is. So I'm debating, yeah. And I'm going to start up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my loop a little bit. Here's another technique. Don't be afraid to open up your wire so you can get up underneath it. Be right back. I'm going to grab some wire. So I've got my scrap wire here, and I'm just going to push this little tail through and then fold it over. Let me get out of that blow up. I'm sorry, you guys, if I was out of frame. I'm going to feed it through 3 times. And I just realized that's 28, but that's okay. Just going to give it more character. Not everything has to be perfect, y'all. It is handcrafted. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, remember I made that, I opened up that loop so that I can get my coils down there. And I'm actually going to pull this away a little bit so I can push them down inside of the loop. Just going to slide that down. Perfect. Now I've got this wire coming over, so I'm going to loop through one more time. And then I'm going to connect them. So I'm just looping through. I'm connecting this loop to the frame. And see that opening there that we made? that gives us a working room. So I'm just going to slide that through there. Bring it through the middle. And I'm going to do 3 wraps, and I'm leaving a nice, loose, relaxed wire in there so I can bring it through my loop and around. So I'm doing 3 wraps. Now I'm going to line them all up. Pull good and tight. I'm going to close my loop. Now I'm just going to do 3 coils. We're going to set our jump rings and make our S hook. Line them all up. Now I'm going to turn it around the back, flatten everything out. And I'm going to hold very firmly. You know, this time, you guys, I'm going to use my nippers because I don't have that against another wire. So I'm just going to come on the inside, okay? The inside, not directly flush with the top of the wire because wire stretches. And I'm just going to roll. So I'm going to roll off that tip of that wire. I got my crystal in the way. And just flattening it in there so I'm not feeling anything sharp. So now I'm going to snap this little piece. I'm just holding, doing a wiggle jiggle. And there's our beautiful pendant. So let's set our jump rings. So I have 3 jump rings. I use the number 3 on my 6-step bail making plier. And all I'm going to do is close this one off. Just rocking them together till I feel them rub. Then I like to come in with my flat nose and just press really hard. Then I'm going to run this one through one loop. I'm going to open it up, just spreading it open. I'm going to run it through, and I'm going to drop my closed jump ring. And then, so I slipped there a little bit. My plier was not in the right position. I'm just going to rock them until they line up. And I'm going to give them a nice flat squeeze. Then I'm going to bring this one in. Something on that wire. Okay, so I got to find my center one. There it is there. And I'm just going to come in here. Get a good grip this time and not slip off. Now you can make your jump ring smaller, but you might want to do a test first to make sure, because remember this is offset, to make sure that you have enough space in between for that to hang evenly. Because once I get my S hoop in there, it's just going to hang nice in my S hook or my little bail. Now this one here, as I'm looking, could probably be a little bigger, or this one here could probably be a little smaller. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. You'll see why. I did that on the other one and I completely forgot, you guys. So I'm gonna get a smaller jump ring. To offset the distance in height, so it hangs more evenly. I hope this isn't too small, but we're going to find out. See, I forgot I did that earlier on my other one. I have different size jump rings based on the height. So I'm going to need to use my stub nose here. This is a smaller jump ring. And you'll see here in a minute. And hopefully that'll work out. So here's my center. Let's close that off. It's always better to me to use flat nose when you're bringing your jump rings together than anything needle nose because you'll slip off of it. Okay, so let's get my wire in here. So that's a little more symmetry, but now I'm thinking opposite of that, but that's okay. It's still centering up now. Can you see that? Because we have to make up for the distance when you offset it. Now you could have just put one big jump ring in the middle. So let me show you that. If you don't want 3 jump rings, then you just have 1 in the middle. And then you can make your S hook. Because it's important to know you have lots of options. So this jump ring needs to be big enough to go through both those hoops, okay? Would go right through the middle like this. So it would loop around both those loops here, that jump ring, okay? And then we'll drop our S hook there. But I want to show you how I did it this way. So let's make an S hook. So what we're going to do is get our scrap wire. I'm going to clean up this end, and I'm going to make one loop smaller than the other. So I'm going to use the number 3, and I'm just using my finger with this scrap wire as I'm rolling this in to itself. Then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to make the number 2. So I'm going to have the loop facing away from me. I'm actually going to use the number 1. And I'm just going to swing this around. I'm going to adjust my wrist, turn it around like this. I'm going to use my finger, and I'm just going to bring that around and then rock it in. And you do whatever works for you. Now all I got to do is cut that. I didn't want a big, and it's personal preference again. I didn't want a big, and this is big enough to get your cord through. So you need to use at least the number 3 to get a cord through. And if you're making a hook and clasp, make sure that you compensate for that. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to get my pretty little piece here and drop my S hook in there, and we are done. So let me turn this around, holding here and here, and then I'm just going to squeeze it together. And there we have it, ladies and gents. That worked out perfect, the different size jump rings. It's laying very center. There is our beautiful crystal. Let me see if I can turn my camera around. Our pretty little crystal dangling from our really pretty loops. Use your imagination, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of this ancient art of wire. As always, I wish for all of you all that you wish for yourselves. Please let me know if you like the tutorial, and have a wonderful, magical wire wrap day. Bye for now.